All right. Right, we are recording. Semtex, how are you today, mate?
I'm good, man. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Um,
likewise, likewise. And we're going to talk about some bangers today, right?
I hope so. I hope so. And I've sent you the list over, and I want to talk records, and I want to kind of do a bit of a deep dive into you as well and get to know
Right.
you a little better. But let's get the playlist started. I want you to tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro.
We want to start there, yeah? Okay. The greatest ever intro, for me personally, I'd say it's Kanye West, All of the Lights.
Right.
And I'm going to take my Chuck D stance on this, whereby I can separate, Chuck D said I can separate the man from the art, like Picasso, when talking about Kanye West. Um, there's a couple of things you shouldn't talk about with friends. They say religion and politics. Kanye West is on that list now as well. Um, and the thing is, it's like, yeah. First of all, I want to make it clear I'm totally against about what he said.
Of
Everything that he
course,
said is pretty
of course.
abhorrent, and I hope someday he can make amends for it. What I do know of him is that he was never like that in the 6 times that I've interviewed him and
Yeah.
when I've worked with him. So it's not for me to comment what's going on or what he's going through, but I can't separate the music from the man. And if we're talking about the greatest intro ever, I've got to talk about All of the Lights for a lot of reasons. Is because as a fan, as a radio broadcaster, and as a club DJ, that intro is powerful, right? And it's testament to the artists that he's worked with as well. It's not just down to Kanye that this track is like an amazing piece of work. It's almost like a mini festival in itself. The way that the track starts, the way that it builds, the way that it breaks down, and the way that it comes back in, and the way that it ends. It is an amazing composition. So in terms of the intro, he collaborated with Rihanna, Kid Cudi, Fergie, Elton John, Drake on this. The horns are triumphant. It's almost like you're entering heaven. I hope one day I get to witness. I hope I get to, I hope I get to experience that. But the horns are like euphoric,
Yeah.
the way that it builds. And I just think it's an incredible intro. Like, to mix in as a club DJ or as a
Yeah.
radio DJ, the audience always know what's coming, and the way that Rihanna builds to that first chorus, it's a journey.
Yeah.
We saw her recently at the Super Bowl do that in the
Yeah,
halftime. She
man.
performed that track. Like, I think people thought it was her track,
Yeah.
but obviously she's featured on it, and it's as much hers as it is Kanye West. But for me, I feel like that's one of the best intros. There's a lot of great intros, but for me personally, that's the one that rings out the most to me and stands out the most to me.
Love it. And I'll tell you what, when I knew you was coming on, I was really interested to know where you was going to go with this track, because I've done like 470 of these episodes now,
Right,
and so many people lean towards rock music
right,
and kind of guitar based intros,
right.
and for me as a 49-year-old guy, I caught hip hop at the right age, and it
Right.
just blew up as I was a kid at school, and it was the most exciting thing that was, that we was only being drip fed. We couldn't get a lot of it, so any bit we could
Yeah,
grab hold of, we grabbed it with both hands, and it was so exciting.
yeah, yeah.
And there's so many. When I done this, I literally interviewed myself about 2 years ago, and
Right.
I chose Fight the Power straight away as my intro.
Really, I
And
was gonna go. I was gonna go for that. Like, that's definitely a contender.
yeah,
Um, but I feel like the build on all of the lights, and let me get my words right here. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's more significant, but in terms of where we're at right now in music and everything else, I feel he's done an incredible job of merging hip hop with soul. There's a gospel entity in there, and it's very, it is, the whole thing is very different.
yeah,
For a track that was a hit record and rotation on radio, but in the clubs to this day, you play it in the clubs, it goes off.
Yeah.
That one and All Falls Down.
Yeah.
I played All Falls Down just before Christmas, and even though Kanye's cancelled, yo, he ain't cancelled in the clubs because that was like that was like being in a church.
Yeah.
People were singing the whole. I was at the Black Tribute show, and people sang it word to word, beginning to end, like the entire track. Like, and it's Lauryn Hill's chorus. They not Lauryn Hill's, Sylvia Johnson who covered Lauryn Hill, but they belted it out. Like,
Yeah.
there's a very real gospel angle, spiritual angle to Kanye's music, and I think All of the Lights has definitely got that. And I feel that's why for me it resonates more. I think it just you know gets the people going.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you said, referencing Chuck D and separating the music from the man, and it's something that comes up time and time and time again on this, where it's such a retrospective look back. So many people will reference Michael Jackson and will say, "Oh yeah, but I want to separate the man from the music," and it is, but they're not. I'm really interested on people's stance on that, because I think you have to, otherwise it extends into art, it extends into everything, film, and you look at what we've seen. Do you not watch any film that Harvey Weinstein's been involved? It's like, I think it's a real interesting one, where you draw that line between separation of, right, well, I'm not about that guy, but he's art, I'm about,
Well, I mean, I think hundreds of years from now, people will be studying Kanye's work and breaking it down. And I think what makes the best artists, they're flawed people. They go through stuff. And going back to the Kanye thing, it's like he mastered the art of making music. Incredible albums, classic albums, right? To achieve that, the attention to detail, the frustration. I mean, you're gonna drive yourself mad trying to perfect albums like he has, right?
Yeah.
But then I was in the Louis Vuitton shop recently because I was trying to get some drip for the Brits, right? And I walked in there, and their theme at the moment is like some kiddies Toyland type theme. It's like an adventure playground kind of thing, and it's really fascinating because it's all about bright colors and polka dots and everything else. And then we're looking at the clothes in there, extortionately overpriced. Yo, he had these guys on the ropes. Like, he had the Louis Vuitton, Adidas had to partnership with him. And it's like these massive monsters of fashion, these massive machines. He was in the midst of them, right? To be able to influence fashion, sportswear, clothing, and music, I think you crack up. Like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you can operate at that level creatively, where you're competing, but you're also forced to be reckoned with. And then he just threw it all away.
Yeah.
He just burnt it all. He burnt the house down, and
I think he just imploded.
Yeah, and again, I'm not looking to justify or anything or whatever. But it is fascinating, like, how much can a human take when it comes to doing art, music, business, fashion, and everything else. It's fascinating to see someone just throw it all away. Like, I've never seen that before at that level. I've never, I know people implode. I know people have just walked away from things, but this is everything.
Yeah.
This is everything that he's burned. The fans, the legacy, and da. So I do think in several hundred years from now, it'll be getting studied in universities.
Yeah.
Like, what he is and what he's done and what he's achieved as a composer. In the same way we talk about classic composers, Wolfgang Amadeus or Mozart or all of these things, we get taught from school that these guys were elite composers, right? These people, I guarantee you, they're equally flawed, equally messed up, equally did some foul shit. But history forgets that as time goes on.
Yeah,
you
people
know.
always look back with them rose-tinted glasses on, right?
Yeah, definitely,
Right, well,
definitely.
I'm going to ask you to look back now because I'm going to ask you for track 2 to tell me the first
Yeah.
song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you.
Okay. New Order, Blue Monday, the
Oh,
12-inch version.
what a record, man.
Yeah, and the reason being, I grew up hearing on the news things about the Cold War, about CND, about nuclear weapons being almost like causing us to be at the end of the world and everything else And I grew up seeing protests on the news, and even though like that CND peace symbol, it was like I only ever saw that associated with bad news on the news, right? So emotional attachment is not the obvious emotional attachment. The emotion that I felt from hearing that track was fear. That shit used to scare me because it is I don't know. Yeah, I remember my parents playing it on a record player one time, and the sky was grey, and there's a part in the track where it sounds like there's something taking off, or where it scared the shit out of me. So that was like the first real emotional attachment to a track, and I love the track. The track was amazing. The whole to this day, there isn't much that can rival that. In terms of the level of
Sonically,
production,
that
the
gets
way that
dropped
it's
in a club
composed.
now. Still
Yeah,
delivers.
yeah. There's nothing like it. So, but yeah, when I was a kid, that scared me. It just frightened me every time I heard it.
Mate, I
So
know exactly what you mean. It was that time where you turn the news on and you'd see like people at Greenham Common, and it was like, and I
yeah,
was a kid, I didn't know what was going on, but I was
yeah,
hearing that someone could press a button and in 3 minutes your mum and dad were going to get blown up. And I remember thinking,
yeah.
oh my God, like this can't happen. And then you'd hear,
Yeah,
and it all felt that, that Cold War. And I think Blue Monday's quite a cold sounding record as well. It's very
yeah,
clinical and
yeah,
bleak sounding. Um,
yeah,
and you had like things like Two Tribes by Frankie Goes to Hollywood coming out at the same
yeah,
time as well. It was all about that
yeah,
Cold War, and you had films like When the Wind Blows and Threads, and
yeah,
all
yeah,
of these things that were all about this
yeah,
thing called nuclear war. And I remember it was a
yeah,
really scary time, man.
yeah. And the mad thing is, not much has changed.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, right now, it's
Yeah,
it's there again, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, now the new thing is blues. It's like, what's going on with these blues? Like, where's it going to lead to?
Yeah.
And this Ukraine and Russia thing is like, when you see Biden just landed in Kiev, all right, what does that mean? Like, I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know.
It is, yeah. That's a strange one, and it got to the point where I don't know how it was for you, but when this first started, it was all encompassing. I ended up getting a van and driving to Ukraine, and I took a load of aid out there and got like stuck in. It was like I had to do something, and now I've come back, and now I have to limit how much I watch of it because
Very.
it's getting, yeah, I'm getting that vibe that you talk about as a kid. That was it again. I just think
Yeah,
when you start seeing that these kind of things that you're reading in the press that is happening in Russia and the things that he's threatening, it's like that shit's terrifying, mate.
yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely.
those formative years, where were they for you? Where did you grow up?
Manchester.
Fond memories?
I've grown up in Manchester.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I grew up in Cheetham Mill, which I thought was amazing. Like I just remember being a happy kid. Um, it was all demographic. Well, not yeah. It was all demographics. I didn't even realize it. It was like it's people from different backgrounds and everything. And everyone was just friends, like in school or whatever. The only thing that separated anybody in school was when someone pooed their pants in PE. It wasn't. Yeah, but when we moved to Middleton, which is more like a white area, it was like that's when I experienced racism. That's when I got introduced to what racism was and everything. So that was a bit shit, my years in that area. But I dealt with it, like I grew up, and it's just one of them reality checks.
How did you deal with that? How does a young lad experiencing that for the first time? Like, what kind of effect does that have on you?
you start questioning things like why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Why are people like that? Why like what? I don't see what the problem is or whatever. And it was really music. That's why I gravitated to hip hop. That really got me through it because listening to Public Enemy, listening to Jungle Brothers, stuff like that, it gave me a different perspective that there wasn't, anywhere else. There wasn't like the perspective from the cassette that I was listening to on the radio show, Stu Allen on Key 103. That wasn't on TV at the time. That wasn't anywhere else. I wasn't taught about it in school. The school wasn't mixed. It's just me and my cousins. So it was very, yeah. The music got me through it basically.
Yeah. Well, let's talk school, and I'm going to ask you for track 3 to tell me about the song that reminds you of your time at school.
Yeah, Gangsta, just to get a rep, and it's more my time at youth clubs than at school because the youth club there's a youth club in Avon Moss in Cheetham Hill, which was incredible, and that's where we used to go. We bring records, play records, and everything. Have a bit of a dance, mess about, table tennis. It's very, very innocent. It was just really, really cool, and I can't stress enough the importance of youth clubs because for things like that, it was where we bonded, it was where we share culture, and it is, this just to get a rep was one of the tracks that everybody loved. We always played it. The artwork spoke out to us, what they were wearing on the cover, the way that the picture was taken and everything. And then the message of the track, it was that point where we were coming of age where it kind of meant something because we knew people that were doing stuff like that. Maybe not as the extreme as what it was on the record, but we knew about people who were starting to get into crime and stuff like that and everything. This is like when we were all turning from like 15, 16 and everything. So it's like mid-teens. So it was a very pivotal track that represented the sign of the times. But it was dope. We loved it at the same time. Yeah.
Did you have any idea when you was at school what you wanted to be?
Nah, not really. It's because the hip hop thing, it hadn't hit me yet. I knew I wanted to DJ when I saw Public Enemy on stage when I sneaked into one of the shows. But wanting to DJ and then actually doing it and then actually realizing that this could be something else, like that's like 3 or 4 different stages. So I just wanted to DJ so me and my friends could hear the music we wanted to hear more than anything else.
Was you a confident kid?
Say that again, sorry?
Was you a confident kid?
Was I confident? Not at all. Not at all. I was pretty goofy. I was very goofy and uncool. It was like I was always the one at the back trying to follow everyone going into the party. I was never like leading the way or anything like that or whatever. Because I was trying to fit in because I didn't know where I was in life, So
So did you think like when you get to sort of 15, 16 and the hip hop starts to having more of an influence on you, do you think that's when you kind of found your tribe? And was you finding your tribe, if not at school, was it in them youth clubs where you find them people that are like-minded and into the same stuff as you?
Yeah, I found a tribe in the youth club, but then everyone started going into crime. And then it was that point where I left school and went to college. And everybody started getting into rave, like when I was at college, and it was like, that was different. I wasn't into that. I wasn't into popping pills or anything like that. And then I guess I started to really define a tribe when I went to university. And I started doing parties at university, and that's when I tapped in. That's when I properly tapped in as being a DJ.
Yeah. Did confidence come with that?
I wouldn't say it's confidence. I'd say it was more intent. I'd say it was more, and or maybe it's the same thing that I'm talking about, but yeah, I went to university because I wanted to make my mum and dad happy. Like they didn't even put it on me like that to be in uni, but I was just like, I want to do something. And then what? But I knew it was I could get away with figuring out how to be a DJ. I could build a fan base, an audience, a community. I knew that it was a it was a it was a great waste of time to do it. So I went to uni, and the thing is, I went to uni. I learned more going to uni, but I learned more going to uni outside of uni than I did in uni.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I did the degree and all of that. I did the degree in human communication. Yeah, that all right. I did. I picked a degree with the least amount of responsibility. That
Wise
wasn't
move, mate. Wise move.
being honest. And then, but while I was at university, when I was doing these student events, I was teaching myself marketing. I was teaching myself what today they call audience building. And yeah, I was dealing with people. I was networking and everything, and everything. You know, I did a degree in human communication, and actually, it's in hindsight, it's the best thing I could have done because it helped with everything from doing the boardroom thing to speaking to artists to talking to 100,000 people on stage. So it's all worked out, believe it or not. So
I imagine there was a fair bit of record shopping going on around this point. So tell me.
Oh yeah.
I want to know all about the first record. It was records, and you've sent some bangers out. So tell me about the first record you remember buying from a record store, please.
The first thing that I stole a lot of records from my brother. My brother had, like he introduced me to hip hop, and he had all the early Def Jam stuff and everything. He had like Public Enemy albums and stuff. And then, I used to tape a lot from the radio shows and everything. But the first albums that I actually bought with my own money was cassettes, and is Ice-T Power, BDP By All Means Necessary, and Airbnb and Rockin' Follow the Leader. And it was free at once. So, and the thing that got me,
that's some three, man.
Yeah. And what got me with them, it was the covers.
Oh.
The covers got me, like, because I didn't really know what they were. Like, I wasn't, like, right now I'm a nerd. I can tell you everything about every release and who's what and everything else. But back then I was just like, all right, here's the hip hop section.
Yeah.
I guess I should have this. I guess I should have that, and I guess I should have that. So it was really like, some of the names were familiar, but I didn't know what I was buying at the time. Like, there was a TV show on BBC Two called Behind the Beat, where they showed snippets of music videos. So I knew what BDP was, By All Means Necessary. I knew about Ice-T. So that kind of introduced me, but I just bought the albums. And then from that, I was all in. I was all in from that point.
And it is the sleeves. It's like, I bought Power on vinyl on the strength of sort of knowing who Ice-T was, but that cover blew my mind. I was like, and I don't know if I presume you've probably got it on vinyl now, but it's raised. If you run your finger over it, it's actually like the characters are actually raised.
Right.
And ridiculous, that record. And yeah, and the sleeve and the back cover of BDP, just like, and I remember hearing like My Philosophy on the radio and just thinking, what is this? This is unbelievable. And just solid tunes. And around that time, I run a club in Essex, and we had a little kind of moment where we was putting lots of hip hop on. And we had Ice-T come over and play at a club. He played a night in London, and he'd come out and he played in Essex. And he was side of stage, and the crowd were obviously just waiting for him to walk out. And he sent his missus out in that bikini from the sleeve.
Really?
He just walked to the front of the stage, and obviously the crowd went absolutely crazy. Whilst he was just nodding side of stage, and then come out and just took the roof off. But yeah, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. So, tell me a little bit about your relationship with the record store.
I mean, The record store was like a magnet, you know. It's like when I was coming up as a DJ, I was in a record store every day. I was like a crackhead, like, oh, what's new? Oh, is anything new out today? You know, like it was I wasn't there on Monday, I wasn't there on Tuesday. Anything new come out? Like, and then it was like I spent all my money on vinyl. And then, you know, I'd do trips to New York. Like when at 18, I went to New York by myself purely to get vinyl, purely to hit record stores, purely to go around record labels, like asking for promos. I'm like, I mean, the audacity of me, like, hey, yeah, I'm biggest DJ in Manchester, yeah? Have you got any promo vinyl there? Give me that brand new Busta Rhymes exclusive track. Like it was just, I had like an agenda of all the labels, which I'd go around to. Like, I was obsessed. I was really obsessed with it. So, and I went from just hanging out, you know, like for me, record shops were like the bar. You know, like people go to a bar and having a drink. I'd be at the record shop just like, oh, what are you buying today? You know, it's just like that. And then, and I was there like every day. I started working in Eastern Bloc Records. Great experience because I was selling my own mixtapes and I got to see how people would pick and decide what would influence what they bought and everything else. So yeah, the record store thing, like, again, you talk about tribes, like there was a real community, like, of people who buy vinyl. There was the DJs, then there was the people who just collect. And yeah, it was invaluable education again. You know, I was doing this while I was at uni as well. So while I was at uni, I was working in a record shop. I was doing club nights. I was working in a builder's yard. I was doing everything. I was doing everything to get as much experience as possible, make some money, and yeah, be on my way basically.
But do you think, like, you know, spinning all of them plates is the best sort of recipe for if you're gonna look to sort of carve out a career in the creative industries? You need to be able to spin more than one plate at a time because, you know, for me, I think, you know, in music, unless you hit a certain level in it, you know, you need to kind of be able to turn your hand to something else to kind of pay the bills that month if that's gone a bit good. Do you know what I'm saying? I think it's like to be able to, like you say, to be able to produce music, be able to DJ, it's like you've got multiple plates spinning and you, like you say, working in a builder's yard as well at the same time to kind of, you know, probably get your money to buy your records. Do you know what I mean? I think that's really important that it does involve fucking graft if you want to get involved in that.
It's non-stop and it can be solitary. It's like a, you know, like people are like, oh, you're so lucky and oh and this that and the other. And it is the music industry or whatever you're working in, or if you get to do what you love doing, it is illustrious, right? But what they don't see is the hours of solitude where you're by yourself on a train platform, or, you know, it's like, you know, I used to get a coach down to London just to go around record companies trying to either look for a job or get more vinyl. Basically, Friday night I get the Thursday night, I'd get the last train. I'm in the last coach, so I'd be on it at 1 a.m., arrive in London at 8 a.m. I was on a mission. And then I get the last coach back on Friday, like at 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's like loads of vinyl and stuff, like, and you know, it's very, you do sacrifice time. You make a lot of sacrifices. Like my friends, like, yeah, you have a tribe and you have a community, but your regular friends that you grow up with, you kind of grow apart because they're doing something different, you're doing something different, and they can't really understand like what you're doing. I think they kind of look at you like you're a bit crazy, like. But you know, now it's like, oh yeah, like, oh, he's always worked hard. Now it's like it's different, but it's just. It's very, you have to, every moment. I'm working as hard now as I was then. It's like, I'm in a better position, but still, like, I'm always thinking about what I've got to do next, what I've got to do this, You can never take your foot off the pedal. The minute you get comfy on the couch, you get thrown off it. So it's always a hard graft, you know?
You touched on something there where you said, like, your friends thought you was a bit crazy because like of what you was doing, and now obviously it's paid off. And so I'm going to move on to the next question because I think it sort of ties in there because again, I've spent all of my life DJing and from a very young age to the point where when all of my friends, I don't know if this was the same for you, when all my friends were out partying, I was generally promoting or DJing and had to kind of, have my wits about me. And so I never really got them kind of lost years that like so many of my pals have got where they were just out partying hard. It was like, well, I was always putting parties on. So I'm interested to know about your experience in them formative years. Did you get to party, or was it like, well, hang on, this is where I'm like, making the foundations here for what I want to do, and ultimately, I want to know what your clubbing track is as well.
I think I'm not actually a clubber. I don't think I ever was.
It's so weird. So many DJs say that.
It's because the thing is, it's like it was like I put on club nights purely to promote myself as a DJ. Yeah. So when I was getting the bus to go to, all right, so at nighttime I'd go fly posting, right, and I'd put on a night. Obviously, I put myself at the top of the bill, and then in the morning when I'm getting the bus to college or to university, which is in Didsbury, which is like far down Oxford Road, I see all my handiwork, right, where I've literally like made the streets glow with posters, and I'd be like, that color doesn't work. My logo needs to be bigger. That you can't see the price. I was teaching myself. It was basic stuff, but it was marketing. So it was like you're doing that, and then you're DJing on the night, and you're hoping you break even. Not, you never break. If you make a profit, you're lucky, right? And then what happened was, it was like you don't enjoy it. It's like because you're observing every track that gets played. Like you go to a club and I see one of my friends DJ. I'm stood in the DJ box with them, like I'm about to go on next or something. Or you're watching every record to see what every reaction is. So, it's kind of. I've never gone to a club and just been like appreciating it for a night out. Like, I think I've done it once or twice.
Do you think the magic isn't there because you've seen beyond the curtain?
Yeah. And I'm critical of everyone. I'm like, no, because I'm like, because you know what happens, right? Like, when I walk into a club, I see the DJ, what they're doing. As soon as they see me in the club, they start scratching and acting differently. I was like, you weren't doing that before. Like, it happens all the time. And then it's like, I'm just analytical about everything. And then I become critical, like, I wouldn't have played that. I wouldn't have done that. Playing that too fast. Ooh, playing that too slow. Ooh, I wouldn't have dropped that yet. What? It's very rare where I'm like, amused. And there's been a couple of times, like, when I go to Afrobeat night, I'm Shazamming everything. I'm not ashamed to say that because I want to know what's getting played. Like that. Like when I go to a night where it's not my genre, that's when I probably get a bit loose. Yeah. But when it's the field that I'm in, it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. So tell me what your clubbing track is.
Main Source, Faking the Funk.
Nice.
Reason being, again, you was talking about tribes. This was probably the one track that represents where I was at when I was at university, when I was putting on my own events. It was a track that isn't obvious. It's one of them if you know kind of thing. And it was one of them that me and all my friends at the time were like, it was one of our bangers, Every now and then you'll hear it in a film or, a Jonah Hill type film or something like that. But it's Main Source were incredible. It's one of the greatest groups in hip hop. They only ever put out 2 albums. The first album's blatant classic. It introduced Nas to the world. So that record, that definitely for me is one of them tracks that really typifies a moment in life when I was coming through as a DJ. Basically, that was like one of my anthems at the time.
Right. I'm going to take you back to Manchester now, and I want to know favorite track from an artist from your home county.
Stone Roses, Fool's Gold.
Yeah, mate.
And the reason being is it just knocks, man. Like
So
everything
good.
about it. Like I think is it like 13 minutes long or something. And it's just like everything about it knocks. The drums knock. It's funky. It's got attitude. It's it's just a very, very unique track.
Yeah.
And I like it even more because it's been sampled many times in hip hop. I think
Yeah.
when Run DMC sampled it, I love that. It made me love the original even more. But I just think it's a track that's got so much character and so much depth. I don't think there's anything like it. I haven't heard anything that does the same thing or makes me feel the same way or whatever. I'm not, obviously being in Manchester, I knew all the Manchester tracks, but for me that was the one that really stood out, and that means something to me more than anything else from my ends, from where I lived originally.
What you sort of said there about, doesn't sound like anything else. It doesn't sound like any other Stone Roses record ever. It just sounds like Blue Monday. It sounds like it's beamed down from outer space. It just sounds like it's otherworldly, and like Blue Monday as well. Like it doesn't date. You hear Fool's Gold now, and it's still could come out this week. It's a ridiculous record.
Yeah, it's elite.
Yeah, tell me about like Manchester, and obviously that would have been sort of 89, 90.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty golden era, You got Public Enemy making some amazing, so much good hip hop coming out there, but it crossed over. Beats made their way into guitar music, and it's well documented what was going on, Hacienda and such. And one of the other bands, which I'm really interested to get your take on, and if you've got any kind of stories of working with them or interviewing them. Like obviously one of the other huge bands that kind of crossed into that kind of second summer of love was De La Soul. And when 3 Feet Iron Rising dropped, that bridged for me as an indie DJ, that was like, this is hip hop that can be played, alongside the Mondays and alongside the Roses. And it was remarkable. And I just want to sort of, because I've not had an opportunity on this podcast to talk about De La Soul and the influence and impact they had on hip hop, how they changed the game. Tell me a little bit about your experience of discovering and listening to, and I imagine you've interviewed De La Soul. Tell me a little bit about your experiences and what De La Soul meant to you.
I mean, for me, it started with a cover. I was in Eastern Bloc Records, and I had a friend at the time called Femi, who was, I think he was one of the, if not the first black skater in the UK at that time. And he was a very, very cool guy. He was like Nigerian heritage. He's very, very well spoken. He used to go to some private school in Bury, so he always had this school uniform on. Incredibly well spoken. But if you get on the bus at the same time with him, he's tagging with a marker. Like if you see him out of the weekend, he's skating, and he looks totally different. And it's weird, like, because I think I first bumped into him in a record shop, and he was looking at De La Soul and he was looking at the cover. I just remember like, wow, that's crazy off the wall, And it wasn't just the cover of 3 Feet High and Rising, it's the 12-inch covers as well. It was like when they started doing all the UK remixes, they really went in on the Dayglow colors and everything else. So it was like he kind of introduced me to them, and the music, like I love Say No Go. The video for that was crazy as well, and me myself and I as well. Like, and I think the lesson from De La Soul was that it's okay to be a nerd.
Yeah.
And me and Femi, we were both nerds. Like I was a nerd in my own way. He was a nerd clearly in his own way. And that's the great thing about hip hop, that it brought people together. And I think with him, De La Soul resonated with him for one reason, resonated with me for another reason. And they made it okay to be different.
Yeah.
I don't think any other hip hop groups done it that wasn't influenced by them, because De La Soul, we started off talking about Kanye. They influenced Kanye, they influenced Pharrell, they influenced Tyler the Creator, some of the most diverse, creative visionaries. It's down to De La Soul. Like what they did with their art, they amplified the fact that it's okay to be different and do you and just be off the wall. So they again, it was part of a golden era of hip hop where you had De La Soul doing that for creativity, you had Public Enemy doing what they were doing in terms of educating and opening people's minds. You had Run DMC, who were just like the ultimate performers at that time in hip hop, and it was a very, very great time where a lot of doors were broken open in different ways at different times, you know. So and with De La Soul, I've interviewed them many times. You know, even when I DJed for them at their show, it was very, what's up? It wasn't like, hey Sam, how are you? And like, he's just like, so like, you know, I see you DJing. Like, oh, yeah, cool. And then over the years, we bump into each other, like whether it's on promo runs or events or shows. When I was touring with Dizzy Rascal in Brazil, we were on after them. When I was at the Mix Show Power Summit, so I'd bump into them. The last time I caught up with them as a group, they came on my show, and what I said to them was like, look, why don't you just take over the show, like do De La Radio, like whatever, and da 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 da. So, and it was really cool because I was like, yeah, I'm DJ Semtex, and then like with De La Soul, you know, just cut me off like, it's dope. It's really, really cool. So, yeah, they're the consummate performers. I mean, another time I caught up with them, there was a Kanye West after. This is crazy, right? So when Kanye did the Glow in the Dark tour at the O2 Arena, he did an after party, and someone said at the end of the show, yeah, come to blah 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 for the after party, which was upstairs. Nobody heard him, right? For whatever reason. So at this after party, there was literally 20 people there, right? No, I'd say, let me say 40 people, 20 regular people, 20 artists, right? So there was a mad open mic session, and it was like Kanye, De La Soul, Big Sean, Kid Cudi, Nas, will.i.am, Damon Albarn got up and started doing some weird singing. Common, like it was mad, and there's only 20 people watching it, and I was the only person that filmed it. Yeah, I was the only person that filmed it. Like, I put it on YouTube, so it is weird. It was just weird. It was a real dope special night, but it's weird that nobody, heard that nobody was there. It's great.
Wow. Well, you've
sorry, and that's what I'm saying. When I've been very privileged to be able to work within this genre and cross paths with great artists many times, you know, over the years. Like, I've been very, very fortunate to work with great artists touring, or to work on radio shows that have taken me traveling around the world, or just working with people. It's like the hip hop passport is the best passport in the world. It's amazing.
And one of the things, you know, that throughout all of that you've done is champion new and exciting music. So I'm going to ask you now to tell me, for your last track, a song that you think many of the listeners to this podcast may not know, that you would like them to hear.
J Hus, Daily Duppy. And the reason being is because I think J Hus is one of the greatest rappers to ever come out of the UK. I think he's the most significant UK rapper since Dizzy Rascal. In terms of his approach, I think with Dizzy, he really embraced the UK accent in his rhymes and his flows. The early history of UK hip hop's a little bit Americanisms and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's other groups that did it with the London accent and everything else. But I think with Dizzy, he was that artist that, if you listen to Boy in the Corner, like his degree of lyricism on tracks like Round and Round, where he's talking about people in the third person, it's on par with what Nas does or Rakim or something like that. He was very, very ahead of his time. People didn't see it at the time. Now, when we're doing the 15th or the 20th anniversary, everyone's like, you know. But back at the time, like, he wasn't getting the respect that he deserved at that time. So with J Hus, I think J Hus is equally significant because what he's done is embrace um, the African lexicon, dialects. Let me get this right. He's introduced languages of the African diaspora, and like, be it phrases, be it tones, be it his own slang, he's put it into his raps that have made it sound and feel highly accessible to every other demographic. So it's not like here's a guy with an African accent rapping. It's not that. The way that he does it, he creates his own slang, he creates his own language. And it's like, if you listen to the lyrics and Did You See, on the chorus, it's not grammatically correct, as is most raps in hip hop. But it's fascinating. It was the first time I ever saw kids from Middle England mimic raps with an African accent or African tone. Like, it's crazy. And he's kept the door wide open for that. Like, he's got many clones. There's many clones of J Hus. I tell him all the time. He's just like, he's not even bothered. Like, he's like, whatever. But a lot of people have took his style and run with it. Like, a lot of UK rappers have been influenced by him. I think with this Daily Duppy freestyle, it's a very, very great body of work. In the same way we talk about at the beginning of this, where Kanye West with All of the Lights, where it was like an event, it's like a 6-minute event. With this freestyle, there's no chorus, there's no verses, just one whole verse. But what he's saying on it is so profound and thought-provoking. He's showing his lyrical abilities. He's showing his insecurities, the challenges that he faces as a young man in London, just dealing with life, the way he talks about his father and everything, and the way that he includes his dialects into the raps and everything. It's highly original. Like, this hasn't been done in America. It's like, I know about Akon from Senegal, and but it's very mainstreamized. It's very palatable. He's singing and everything else. So, but with this, this is like African influenced rap from the UK, and there's nothing like it. He's the blueprint for it. He's the primer for it. He's the DNA for this sound. He's the DNA of the future as well. There's other artists that are coming through. It's Africa's time in music at the moment, be it Burna Boy, Wizkid, Rema, Black Sharif, etc. But what Huss has done is different from the UK rap standpoint. Is for me, I think he's one of the most important rappers in the UK. I feel like he is the future. I feel that he's bridged that gap in culture, and I think this one freestyle, if someone has to hear something about J Hus, you can check out the albums, you can check out the singles and everything else. But this freestyle is a gem. It's been overlooked because it's just a freestyle, but it's actually a lyrical gem with everything that he says on it. And it's as much a rap as it is an audiobook. It's almost like somebody reading about Sign of the Times from someone in his position in London at this moment in time, from this era. I just think it's an amazing track.
We'll make it easy for people to check that out, and they can go and listen to all of the tracks that we spoke about today, Semtex, because we put together a Spotify playlist to accompany the podcast, so people can go and check out everything. What's happening with you? What's going on?
So, I mean, for me, it's business as usual. Radio. I'm going to start up the podcast again in a minute.
Nice.
I've got a new record out this Friday. It's called Floor Shake. I produced everything myself, and it features Backroad G and Kwesi Arthur. Backroad G is one of the hardest MCs from the UK. Kwesi Arthur is one of the hardest MCs from Ghana. And what I'm trying to do is make events. Like, I'm not trying to do the smash and grab, make the biggest hit for for the charts or whatever. I'm just creating dope moments for the culture, like, and I feel like this is one of them. It bangs. It's gonna shut down any festival. I've been testing the instrumental on tours recently. I was on a little Tekka tour, and it just went off every night. Playing the instrumental on my show, and people been like asking what's that and everything else. So I've kind of been like subliminal with seeding it, but yeah, it's a banger, man. Like
Nice.
absolute banger, and there's many more on the way as well. So it's I'm in everything, like, you know, radio, podcast, music, clubs, festivals, all of that.
And if people want to keep up to speed with all of that, where's the best place to keep up to speed with you?
At DJ Semtex on all social media, like whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, I'm on everything. So it's everywhere. Yeah.
Well, if it's cool with you, we'll tag you in this. If people are following you already, then we'll make it nice and easy for them, for listeners to this podcast. Mate, I've had an absolute pleasure, mate. It's been such a joy chatting tunes with you.
Yeah. Nah, likewise, man. It's good.
I'm going to press stop. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah. All right.